Welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thank you all for tuning in, following my channel, and watching my exploration of the wide world of pens, primarily fountain pens, as you probably guessed, and that's why you're here. And you see rotating in front of you two pens that were sent to me by a viewer, and I happen to find them very interesting. They're extremely low cost. Here's a listing from Amazon for the pens. You get 4 of them, and they're all different colors. And they're interesting colors, matte finish. You got a nice clear barrel there to see your ink level. Always a nice feature. And I'm certain that you can find a color ink to go in there that would supplement the color of the pen. So we're going to explore these pens, talk about their interesting filling systems. Stay tuned as the crabs give you a winky wink. So we can talk about first impressions, and the minute I put nib to paper, I like the nib quite a bit, much more than I expected, considering it's a fine nib. Nothing special about it. It's a little stubby. The horizontal lines are fairly fine, and the vertical lines are much thicker. And it's smooth, and it lays down a decent amount of ink. Again, much more. The pen writes above its price level very nicely. It writes as well as any steel pilot nib I've ever used, which is saying a lot. So we're going to look at these two together. These are the two that I have. They're engraved with the name of the pen maker there in the cap. This is what I think it translates into. Just a plain chrome finial, a standard design clip. Pretty stiff and springy, but certainly very functional over many types of fabric and pen cases you might want to use. Matching chrome bands there, and some kind of end to the pen. So let's look at this one a little bit more closely. The cap comes off in 2.5 turns, which is quite a bit. And we'll see a standard number 5 nib. Fine. It's a Yongseng logo on it, and it's branded. Clear section, which I always find interesting, clear feed. And that nib is pilot style, as I call it, 78G Metropolitan, etc. That is being used. A nice little O-ring there that seals up when you put the cap on. But how do you fill it? So we'll see what happens when we unscrew the back of the barrel. We'll see a spring filler system. I first saw this in the Pen BBS 500 series. I think TWSBI Go does something like this. I don't have one, don't want one. But this is how they work. You just press it down, and it pulls up ink. When you press it down, you'll see there's that opening there, so it's going to pull up a lot of air. So probably a couple pumps would be needed to complete filling. This ring here probably unscrews, but I'm not going to do that now. This cap that holds down the spring also unscrews, so they're relatively easy to take apart. You can see in there the little protuberance, kind of like a filling tube at the end of that section. So that's the pen. Let's explore filling this one. As you probably know, I have some blue inks that I think would work well. We're going to do a flushy flush, as I usually do, to clean the nib and feed, and then we're going to ink it up. Ink it up. Now we're in dark mode. Bring in the LED. It did a good job on the coloring. But let's take a look at what's inside the cap. And we'll see that the cap is probably injection molded plastic with some type of metal looking coating on the outside. You can see at the very top there that finial probably screws into place to hold in the clip. If we look inside that barrel cap, we'll see the same type of design with that plastic, kind of a white plastic inside there that they then coat to give it some color. So I always like to ensure my pens are totally clean before I ink them for the first time. So I used this plunger to pull up some soapy water, pushed it out, but I noticed that no matter what I did, I couldn't get that little bit of water out. I pulled the nib and feed, but there's just a very small opening, and it's a little bit raised, so ink or water is going to be around there, and you're not going to be able to push it out through that little opening. I tried everything I could to unscrew this piston assembly, and it doesn't move. I have section pliers and everything else, and I'm not the strongest person in the world, but I certainly have taken apart enough pens to know when something is going to come apart or not. So my guess is that's a permanent connection, could be glued in. So changing ink in a pen like this design is not going to be easy to do, especially if you want to do a drastic change in color, because you're always going to have some residue ink in this barrel that you're not going to be able to remove. But for a pen of this low cost, and you get 4 of them, you could probably keep the same ink in the pen until you get tired of it. So I have too many pens, and I had forgotten about this Fanmu pen, which has a very similar filling system. Yes, it's a spring-loaded pump filler, just like in this Yongseng. And yes, I put those caps on very tight. So this pen predates it. I thought I did a review. I can't find it. So if you remember the review I did on the pen, that'd be great. Send me a link. It's not unique to the Yongseng 3024, but I still like the way it's done in that pen. So this is the ink we're going to put in. It's a nice sparkly ink, glittery ink. I've used it in a few pens and I like it. So let's put it into this new pen. I'm expecting the filling to be pretty cool looking, so we're going to test it out on the camera. You stick it into the ink is up to the section, push down the plunger, and you can see it pulls up a decent amount of ink. I'm impressed. And we'll do that one more time. That kind of flushes everything out well. I'm impressed. That's a fairly good fill in this type of filling system. You could always turn it upside down and try to get more, but I think that's enough for me. I think the way the ink fills in that feed is really cool looking. It looks nice sloshing around inside that barrel. And that ink doesn't stick to the barrel, which is very nice. So when you're writing, that ink is going to flow down very nicely. So far, so good. Now comes to that all-important dimensions, weight, and some editorial comments. So first, let me say this pen is highly recommended. It gets 2 big thumbs up for 3 main reasons. Yes, the Spanish Inquisition. 1, it writes very well, consistent, puts down a nice, wet, distinctive line. Number 2, it's great value. These are about $4 a piece. You can buy them on Amazon in the US, and I'm certain they're available through other selling methods. I just haven't found them. And number 3, it has a really functional, unique, effective filling system. So how could you not enjoy this pen? Is it perfect? Nah, no pen is perfect. And if a pen is perfect, as you use it, it's going to not be perfect anymore. Hence, that's why some collectors, the pen never leaves the box. But I enjoy my pens. I enjoy writing with them. I have pens because I enjoy writing with them. So therefore, perfect is not something I look for, expect, or want. But this pen certainly exceeds, punches way above its weight. and is a joy to use. So what more can I say? So I like sharing where you can buy this pen. I put a link in the video description. I also put a link to the store on Amazon that sells this pen, because they also sell another pen, which I highly recommend, the 3008, and also at a very good price, and you buy 4 of them, so you can enjoy them, share them with friends, give them as gifts. Lots of uses for your investment. So check them out, see if you find something you like. So some of the quirks of this pen. Well, when you screw down the cap, it really is held in place by that O-ring down there, so it takes some effort to uncap it, which hopefully makes certain that nib stays wet. But if you try to uncap it by turning it back here, you'll just unscrew this huge blind cap. So therefore, you got to remember to hold it here when you uncap it. Something that's easy to learn over time. So one of the things that many viewers like to know is, how does the pen post? Well, you have to put up for the number of turns to get that cap off, almost 3. And if you put the cap at the end of the barrel, it posts fairly securely, but it makes for a very long pen. But that cap is light, so it doesn't really change the balance. So for those of you that like to post, this pen would work for you. Let's do a little bit more writing, and we'll conclude this video. So as I talked about before, I enjoy writing with this fine steel number 5 pilot style nib. And if you don't like a fine, if you have other pilot pens, like I mentioned, Metropolitan, Kakuno, 78G, you can take that nib out and put it into this pen, easy peasy. So you can swap nibs if you want to. So we've come to the end of this video. I hope it finds all of you safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying all of your pens. Then this does fit fine in the hand. That's the important part. Feels good. As we know from a previous video, some pens don't. So I want to thank all of you for watching. We've reached the end of this video. And we're going to say bye. I love this line. It lays down a consistent, nice line. What you want a writing instrument to do.